can see right now, without LeBron, Lakers are struggling.
Let me tell you about a team I hate, all right? I know the Dallas Cowboy fan is here, so I had to make sure he knew how much I hate this team.
I'm ready.
I've often said that the people who run baseball, they try very hard to ruin it.
I'm from Brooklyn. I don't have a problem saying it to his face. Oh, I'm from Brooklyn. Hey, you guys any...
What are we talking about? You play to win the game. You don't play to just play. Come after me! I'm a man! I'm for you! Can't wait! Let's go!
Welcome back, everybody, to another edition of the Sunday Morning Drive. I'm fired up. This is my favorite weekend of the year. It is wild card weekend. We had 2 football games yesterday. I won't say 2 good football games, but I'll say 2 football games yesterday that we got to watch. I would say we had 2 good first halves. And if you combine them in the one football game, we had 1 good football game. The second half in both those games was a little bit boring, but we'll break them down. And we're also going to preview the 4 remaining wild card games, which is bleeded over into Monday. And I have my opinions on that also. I don't think there should be football Mondays. I think it's a severe disadvantage. I hate the fact that the football is being played on Monday for playoffs. But before we get into all that, I got to introduce my brother, CR Media, my man Chase, Chiefs Kingdom. The guy is riding high after a huge win yesterday. The expectations are back. Patrick Mahomes is him. Just does he have the wide receivers to make a deep run? How are you feeling this morning, Chase?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. Obviously, that game gave me a little bit of confidence back, if you will. It's crazy the game plan that they stuck with, but like I said, I'm riding high and I'm ready to talk some football. So,
well, before we get in that game, let's get into the opener, right? Let's talk about CJ Stroud. Let's talk about the Houston Texans. So after the first half of that football game being 24-14, I was fully ready. And by the way, that game should have been 17-14, punting the ball to the Browns. That was one of the worst calls I've ever seen made against Cleveland, to be able to give CJ Stroud that first down that eventually the next play they would holding, and then the Dalton Schultz touchdown to make it 24-14. And at that point, I'm like, man, this should be 17-14. The refs are taking the game away from Cleveland. It was almost like DeMeco Ryans went into that locker room and goes, listen, we've gotten a couple ticky-tack calls go our way. Let's make sure they have no doubt about it in the second half. And what they did out there in that second half, 21-0, 14 points scored from the defense with 2 pick sixes, not 1, but 2 pick sixes, Steven Nelson and Christian Harris. The Texans left no doubt. Your thoughts on the Browns versus Texans? I wanted to see Joe Flacco. I had the video queued with him versus his old team, and it failed me. But the Browns season comes to an end. We'll talk about the Browns in a second, but we got to talk about CJ Stroud. We got to talk about what CJ Stroud did. Your thoughts on the game, your thoughts on CJ Stroud. Is he him? Is he him? Is he? That's your cue, Chase.
Are we having technical difficulties?
No, I don't think so. I can hear you. Are you not hear me?
My thing is going in and out. I don't know if it's you or me. So to kind of piggyback off of my great night last night, I didn't get to watch the Chiefs game on my big 75-inch TV because Xfinity decided they were going to go completely down. So I had to use my phone internet to watch Peacock on my phone. So I think I'm still having a little bit of issues because there's some whatnot. But let's get into Joe Flacco. Joe Flacco threw 2 picks, was sacked 4 times. They couldn't protect him. I think there was a group chat of my friends and somebody posted, oh, hey, guess what? Joe Flacco is back. This is the Joe Flacco that we were accustomed to seeing, not the 2012, possible MVP, possible Super Bowl MVP. Obviously it's been 14 years since that game was played. So, I think if the O-line would have done their job and protected Joe Flacco and given him some time, I think that game would have been a lot closer. A lot closer.
See, when you look at that game, Chase, and can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yeah.
All right. So when you look at that game, the 2 things that really stood out to me was that DeMeco Ryans defense. Let me talk about him, right? CJ Stroud is him. The throws that he was making across the field, he is him. My man is Himothy. Guy looks great. But what stood out to me was my defensive rookie of the year, Will Anderson Jr., the best player that came out of college football last year, absolutely dominating around the edge. And an ex-Philadelphia Eagle who couldn't do anything right on the field, all of a sudden, with some good coaching, gets a huge sack and causes the pick 6 to another ex-Philadelphia Eagle and Steven Nelson. So Derek Barnett causes the pressure. Steven Nelson takes it to the house. And Eagles fans are watching this saying, so it wasn't them. This is what good coaching does. I thought that the Texans defense looked great. And listen, I've been on record before. All the people that after that game said DeMeco Ryans should win Coach of the Year, it's a regular season award. You're wrong, and I will explain to you you're wrong. Because what Cleveland did this year, losing their starting right tackle, their backup right tackle, their starting left tackle, their all-pro running back, their starting quarterback, their backup quarterback, their third-string quarterback, their starting safety for almost the entire year. They lost all of that and won 11 football games in the toughest division in football. Did they lose a road playoff game? Of course they did. DeMeco Ryans should be second for Coach of the Year? Of course he should. What DeMeco Ryans did for that team this year in Houston is incredible. You're probably gonna get you're definitely getting the offensive rookie of the year. You probably should get the defensive rookie of the year. That is great coaching. But let's not just completely skip over what happened in Cleveland. It was magical, bro. Magical.
That place is cursed. And for any coach to come in there and do what they did this year with all the missing pieces, could you have imagined how well Joe Flacco could have played if all of those starting pieces on the offensive line were? Again, I think the game would have been a lot closer. Not taking anything away from Houston whatsoever. Again, 4 sacks, 2 picks, and then CJ Stroud, who's 16-21 for 274 and a tutty in his rookie debut for the playoffs.
3 tutties.
That's insane. Yeah, 3 tutties. I'm sorry.
No, it should say 157.2 quarterback rating, a 98.4 QBR versus the number 1 statistical defense. Bro, that defense had Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah, who should have been a second-team All-Pro, Myles Garrett, first-team All-Pro, maybe Defensive Player of the Year, Denzel Ward, one of the best corners in football, Martin Emerson Jr. That defense is solid. Greg Newsome, they got a Zadarius Smith. I can keep going. Their defense is solid. And what CJ Stroud did to them made them look like little kids. Now, we know what the AFC playoff picture will look like next week as long as Buffalo does what they're supposed to do against Mason Rudolph. Buffalo could throw a monkey wrench in where everybody's going next week. But as of right now, it looks like Kansas City will travel to Buffalo, and you're going to get CJ Stroud at Baltimore. Now, if you want a defense, you're going to go through AFC North defenses. a defense that's probably better than Cleveland. The only defense I think is better than Cleveland. How about that all-pro Roquan Smith? How about that all-pro Kyle Hamilton? How about that Ravens defense? Because Houston, they might have had some home cooking, no cold weather, beautiful stadium. It's not going to look like that next week versus Baltimore. But I want to give Houston their roses, and I want to finish that right after I congratulate the Browns. If you're a Browns fan right now, I want you to stop. I want you to look back at the scale of this season and say, if we had our all-pro running back, our quarterback that we traded all these assets for, that we were 5-1 with, if we had Deshaun Watson, Nick Chubb, our starting offensive line, how deep could that team went? How deep could the Browns have went? So I want to get, if you're a Browns fan waking up this morning upset about the loss, I understand. But I don't want you to forget what you had this season with Joe Flacco.
I'm so glad you brought that up, Gene, because this game, the final score, with it being 45-14, and I know I'll probably catch some flack for saying this, no pun intended, but this game was a lot closer than people think it was.
Early it was. It was close early.
Yeah, early. That's what I mean. Like they ran away with it towards the end there. The Browns won the third down battles. 7 out of 15 compared to Houston's 2 out of 8. The Browns won the time of possession by over 11 minutes. Myles Garrett stated that this was the most painful loss of his career. If you're a Cleveland Browns fan and you're just sitting there shaking your head going, of course, another year, another disappointment. I would agree with you, Gene. I think if you're a Cleveland Browns fan, I think you should be optimistic for what they have. You get the starting offensive line for this team back next year. You get Deshaun Watson back at full % next year. You get your starting running back. You've got the draft ahead of you, free agency ahead of you. Not a whole lot of draft capital for the Browns, but still, they've got some picks to put pieces in place to make next year a lot better than what. When was it that they made it to the divisional against Kansas City? 2021 was the COVID year.
I think it was 2020. Pretty sure it was 2020.
Yeah, 2020. I got kicked out of Arrowhead Stadium, so because I was intoxicated and I was sitting on the seats that had tape over them because I didn't want to sit in my assigned seat. So that's why I couldn't remember if it was 2020 or 2021. But like I said, it
might have been calendar year 2021. You might be right. It might have been January 2021.
Okay. Right.
Chiefs Brown divisional. Let me just check. I know it was the 2020 season.
Yeah, because it was COVID. Yeah, like I said, it was COVID. So
January 17, 2021. So you were right. You were right.
But like I said, when you said that Cleveland should be happy, Cleveland should be proud of themselves.
Proud.
I didn't want to
say happy.
Of course. I wouldn't tell a fan base to be happy the day after they lost the playoff.
Yeah.
I definitely wouldn't try to ask questions in the middle of somebody's team getting beat.
Oh my Lord, Brad. I'll call him out. I love Brad. Brad's one of my favorite people on the network. Like, hey, so you think they should get rid of Tua? Like, Jesus, bro, not now. Right Hawk down. Yeah.
Not right now.
Bro, if you're a fan of your team, I just like preface this, right? If you're a fan of a team that has any expectation, like Chiefs, Eagles, 49ers, Dolphins, Cowboys, like I get it, bro. If you're a Packers fan or you're a Rams fan, you're like happy to be here, right? You're like, oh, it's make Pittsburgh, let's make it happen. Like there's no real expectations for them to win anything. But if you are a fan of a team that was in the Super Bowl last year, like the Eagles, or that won the Super Bowl last year, like the Chiefs, or that was one of the top teams in football this year, Miami Dolphins, they were the 2 seed up until the last week of the season. It is gut-wrenching when your season is over. Yo, there needs to be a 24-hour rule. Like, you cannot hold me. Like, bro, I'm telling you right now, Eagles get smashed on Monday by the Buccaneers. I don't don't ask me about the Eagles until like Tuesday afternoon at 3. Let me process. Let me understand. Because like I'm going to snap back at you and it's not going to sound right.
Yeah.
It's just because I'm emotional, right? We love our teams. We care about teams. Now, if you're a fan of like the Jacksonville Jaguars or the Los Angeles Chargers, you can talk to them during the game. They don't really care.
Yeah.
We're not real fans. If you're an Arizona Cardinals fan, you're not really a fan. You're not. But if you're part of Chiefs Kingdom or, Eagles Nation, can't do that. Can't do that. I love you, Brett. Houston deserves their roses. Want to talk about that?
Absolutely.
They're I love what that D'Amico Ryans led team is going to be. I think that they're going to be great in the future. They have their franchise quarterback. They have 3 years to build around him while he's on a rookie deal. They have money to spend. They have an all-world defensive lineman, outside edge rusher and Will Anderson Jr. They have an all-world cornerback in Derek Stingley Jr. They have Nico Collins, who's coming into his own. Tank Dell will be back next year. They're starting to build something there in Houston. Now, I'm going to ask you a question real quick because I feel like this will be the last week. We'll obviously preview them next week. But if you were going forward in the AFC South, and you were taking over one football team, what team would you most prefer to take over? Would it be the Jaguars with Trevor Lawrence and Doug Peterson and what they're growing? Would it be the Texans with C.J. Stroud, Will Anderson, Derek Stingley, D'Amico Ryans? Would it be Shane Steichen, Anthony Richardson? Or would you like a clean slate with the Tennessee Titans? New coach, you can pick the coach, and new quarterback, you can pick the quarterback. If you were taking over one of these 4 teams, what team do you think is closest to winning a Super Bowl?
That's a good question.
Are you going to be a prisoner of the moment? I don't know. You might. It's okay to be a prisoner of the moment.
So I'm glad you mentioned that because obviously, after watching last night's game and after watching D'Amico Ryan take the Houston Texans, the knee-jerk reaction would be the Houston Texans, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know, man. Dougie P, Trevor Lawrence, and what Jacksonville has over there. I still have to go Jacksonville.
See, I'm going to be a prisoner in a moment. So I look at the teams and I break them down. Let's just say C.J. Stroud and Trevor Lawrence are even. Or even let's just say you give the nod to Trevor Lawrence right now. Say that. Who's all-world edge rusher would you want? Will Anderson Jr. or Trevon Walker? I would take Will Anderson Jr. Who's starting cornerbacks would you want? Whose defense would you want? Whose offensive line would you want? And the receivers are almost a wash. You got Nico Collins, Dalton Schultz, Tank Dell versus Calvin Ridley, Evan Ingram, and Christian Kirk. They're almost a wash. Like, I probably would rather take Houston. And I got 4 more years of my rookie contract to build around, whereas Trevor Lawrence is 3 years in. You only have 2 more years before you have to pay him. So
I agree. I think the reason why I didn't go with the hot ticket with the Houston Texans on theirs is it comes down to Dougie P. Dougie P took a team to the Super Bowl and won a Super Bowl with a backup quarterback. So
are you ringing a bell in your house? Did you ring the bell?
No, it's my phone. My bad.
Oh, no, that's fine. That ring the bell means we have to move on to Chiefs Dolphins. That's what that means. That's okay. I'm all right with that. Chiefs Dolphins were last night, and we have our friend of the show, Danny Dempsey, resident Dolphins fan. Tua stinks. Send Tua to the Falcons and go after Fields. Skip this. I don't think Tua stinks.
I don't either.
But I don't think he's a top 10 quarterback.
I'd have to look. I'm not gonna.
He's been teetering to me on the 9 through 13 range. I don't think he's a good enough quarterback to go into Arrowhead with 0-degree weather and win a football game. I don't think there's about 4 or 5 guys that be able to do that, and that's that's just assuming the Chiefs don't play their best game. But last night, the Chiefs defense, one of the youngest defenses in football. Is it not the youngest defense in football? It's
one of.
I think it's the youngest, but that's okay. one of the youngest defenses of football. And they found, in my opinion, and this is just from an outsider's perspective, they found their next wide receiver. Rashee Rice is him. The guy looks great. It's the youngest, as we said. I honestly believe that the Kansas City Chiefs are primed to go into Buffalo and play a good football game. I'm not predicting who's going to win the game yet. I got to see Buffalo. Do they come out unscathed? I think that Buffalo missing Matt Milano and Tre'Davious White is very hurtful for them. And they've been missing them for most of the season. But when you go up against a guy like Patrick Mahomes or Andy Reid, I think that'll be a really good football game. I don't want to make my prediction on that yet. You have to tune in next week for that. But I do want to give the Chiefs their roses. Now, before we got on this show, you didn't seem like very thrilled, right? Like as if your team just won a huge playoff game. Isaiah Pacheco looked great.
Amazing.
Rashee Rice, Travis Kelce looked very good. And Mahomes looked like Mahomes.
Yeah, Kelce had a couple of big drops. So here's where my issue lies with that game last night. Mahomes threw the ball 41 times.
Okay,
and completed 23 of them. He was sacked 0 times, which I love. I love. What I don't love is that he threw the ball 41 times.
Chase, to be fair, the Chiefs were not running the ball for any type of substance. They ran the ball 34 times. If you take out the 2 to Mahomes,
64.
Well, if you take out the 2 to Mahomes for 41 yards, they ran the ball 32 times for 106 yards. That's not successful. And I think going into that game, they seriously, Chase, I know, and I mean that. I don't want to, I'll go right back to you, but I think going into that football game, both defensive coordinators were like, oh, we're stopping the run. We're going to make them throw the ball. And if you look at the way Vic Fangio's defense played the Chiefs last night, it was send to house every play.
Yep.
It was send everyone.
Yep.
So, I actually thought last night, and maybe this is me not being a Chiefs fan, but I actually thought last night was the time where you definitely figured out a way to throw the ball. And I'll give Andy Reid and your Chiefs credit, because in the beginning of the game, when they had to figure out how to throw the ball, first 2 passes looked ugly. We're like, oh, what type of game are we in for?
Yeah.
And I felt like Mahomes figured out how to throw the ball in that weather faster than Tua did.
Yeah.
So I digress. It's your team. You tell me.
No. I agree. I think with the elements and the way the game is, and there's something that the Chiefs should have, if they have not done last week, and that was sit down in a room and go, we're not the 2018 Chiefs. We're not the 2019 Chiefs. Okay, Sammy Watkins is not here. Tyreek Hill is not here. Travis Kelce can't pull in the majority of the balls that's being thrown his way. He's had a few big time drops, for whatever the case is. I've heard people on this network, and I've heard people on big networks go, oh, he's distracted, which is asinine to me. You all realize that Travis Kelce is the same age as Robert Gronkowski, who's retired twice. He's 34 years old. A regression is coming, whether or not it's now or next year or whatever. And McCole Hardman. McCole Hardman is only good for one thing, and that's bombing the ball back, which he couldn't even do yesterday, like we mentioned before we went live. Rashee Rice is the only highlight of these wide receivers, not MVS, not anything. So if you want to go in and beat a team like Buffalo that you couldn't beat in the regular season, which Chiefs lose to Buffalo all the time in regular season, find a way to win in the postseason. But it's the game's not going to be at Arrowhead. More than likely, this game will be they will play Buffalo, and it will be in Buffalo. So the Chiefs will have to go on the road for the very first time in the playoffs. And I just don't have confidence in these wide receivers to pull away and score from Buffalo. I think Kansas City should change the game plan, and they should rely on Isaiah Pacheco and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Who's a utility player. He can do it all. And that's why I was sitting there watching last night, and I was like, yo, like, this is cool, but if you go into Buffalo next week and try and do this, or if we have to play Houston by any small means, we have to play Houston and their defense, and you want to play like this, that's not going to work out.
I think them playing Houston and Kansas City might be a blessing, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I think the big game, and the game I think everyone wants to see, is the winner of that KC Buffalo game versus Baltimore in the AFC Championship. That would be the most televised game this year. It's the game that the whole world wants to see. Just speaking from an outsider's perspective. What did the Dolphins do this offseason? What would you do if you were the Miami Dolphins? Because this is a game about closure, right? We're going to talk about these teams that won next week when we do a preview again. But let's close out the season for the Miami Dolphins. What do the Dolphins do this offseason? If you're the GM of the Dolphins, now obviously Danny wants to throw Tua off a hill, and Tyreek Hill's last.
You do that 24-hour rule for Mr. Dempsey, but that's all right.
I get it. He's a diehard Dolphins fan. Since I met him, dude, we were 5 years old and like hanging out together, and he was a Dan Marino guy. Like, it's facts.
Let me paint a picture for you, okay? Do I think Tua is a top 5 quarterback? No. Do I think Tua can get the job done? Absolutely, I think he could. You look at Tua Tagovailoa, and
sure.
You look at a guy who Miami never wanted him. We just don't. To me, it just seems like the front office of the Miami Dolphins, since they drafted Tua, has said, yeah, this is our guy. But if Aaron Rodgers becomes available, that's our guy. If we can trade for Deshaun Watson, that's our guy. If we can somehow trade with the Chicago Bears and get Justin Fields, that's our guy. I just don't feel like at any point in time that the Miami Dolphins front office has looked at Tua and said, this is our quarterback, and we are going to protect him and put pieces around him to make him successful.
I think they did that this offseason, Chase. I think with Mike McDaniel, and I think
and regardless of some of their struggles, they made the playoffs.
He's also scared to get hit. He's scared to get hit, 100%.
Oh, absolutely.
On that third and 4 when he started running and it looked like he could get the first down, and then he's seen a couple Chiefs defenders standing right at the, and he was going to have to take a hit to get that first down. He slid down. He's like, I don't want it. Don't do it. He just dove in the corner, like ducked into the fetal position.
Yeah.
Can we play a quick game?
Yeah.
I want to play a game of if you're the Miami Dolphins. This is if you're the Miami Dolphins. This isn't you're starting a franchise tomorrow.
Yeah.
Tua Tagovailoa or, and I'm going to give you a list of 6 quarterbacks. And I want you to tell me who you'd rather have for the Miami Dolphins. Tua or. Is that fair?
Yep.
I'll start with the name that I had him on my list, but I'll start with the name that Danny brought up. Tua or Justin Fields going forward?
Justin Fields.
That was quick. Most people in the football world would not say that.
But I've always been really big on Justin Fields.
Same. I have too.
Yeah.
Tua, Trevor Lawrence.
Trevor Lawrence.
You're laughing like that. It's not close.
Well, it's not that I think Trevor Lawrence is a top 7 quarterback in the NFL.
Okay. I've dropped him down a little bit. I had him 5. Definitely below Lamar now.
Skill, football IQ, whatnot. Obviously Trevor Lawrence needs a lot of guidance, just like a Tua does. But there's a lot of Trevor Lawrence is a phenomenal athlete. He's tall, he's lengthy, he's got big arms.
I'm gonna go down the ladder a little bit. You gave me 2. You took. Would you rather start next season with Tua or Jared Goff? Dropping down the ladder a little bit down the ladder.
I'm taking Tua.
Okay. I've agreed with all three of that you've said so far. Just to be clear, I would take Tua over Goff. How about Tua or Dak Prescott?
Dak Prescott?
Wait, Key, I find it very interesting that you chose Goff over Tua, but chose Tua over Lawrence. That means that you have Goff, who I think is a stiffer version than Trevor Lawrence over. Okay, that's fair. I find that interesting. Tua or here we go.
Danny says that's a wash. I wouldn't call it a wash. I think it's just really
I'm gonna go Dakota Rain. That's what I'm going with. I'm going Rain Dakota over to it. 100%. I don't think this one's that close. I have Dak above Goff by a lot.
Yeah.
He can't win the big moments. I agree with that, but I have a video
yes.
coming soon that you guys are going to love. It's being made as we speak, and it's going to be incredible. Incredible. You're going to love it. I promise. But who are you going with, Dak or Tua?
I'll go Dak.
Okay.
That was a hard decision because had Dak not had the year that he had, I would have gone Tua.
All right. This one might be a little homerish, and it might sound like it's a no-brainer, but there's been a lot of talks about this recently. How about his former college teammate, Tua or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
I agree. Danny typed Hurts before. He knew where I was going with it. And I have one more, and I'm not going like Aaron Rodgers. I'm not going like guys that are like older. I'm trying to stay around the wavelength as far as now. This is a really interesting one, right? Because he's near the end of his career, and I don't want to go too far with this. But if you had this Dolphins team next year or going for next 2-3 years, would you rather have Tua or Matthew Stafford?
Matthew Stafford, because he's proven. And he's got exactly what you would need with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle. And that is
Stafford with that arm.
Yeah.
With that arm throwing the ball to Tua. He might throw the ball 70 in the air.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, that might not be fair.
Yeah. It would be like playing Madden on all rookie and just letting your out wide receiver run a streak and Stafford just boom, bombs it. Here's the thing. We always talk about, one of the things that I love that you talk about, Gene, is you talk about marrying the coach to the quarterback, right?
Yep.
And it's the same thing. The people that sanctionize that marriage is the team, the front office. If the front office doesn't believe in you, then where are we going with this conversation anyways? Accentuate the positives and hide the negatives, right? Tua will never, ever be able to throw the big ball like you want him to. But Tua has great field, not presence, obviously, but he outlooks on the field really well. And he can get the job done. There's a lot of good things about Tua. So accentuate those by heightening your running game, heightening your play action, and building an offense around the positives that Tua can do, and hide the negatives. The negatives is that he doesn't have a good sense of pressure, and he can make mistakes.
Yeah, he's happy.
Yeah, happy feet.
I will say this. I think, Danny, I know you don't like him right now, but as an objective person, and I'm not a huge Tua fan, you know this, but as an objective person, I'm going to add one more too because I just thought about it. But as an objective person, I think Tua throws a very good crosser, a very good, I think he's a great, slant thrower, quick thrower, accurate thrower of the football, clean pocket. I think he's very, very good with that. So I just want to be clear. I don't think he's obviously never going to have that deep ball arm, but when you got guys like Waddle and Hill streaking across the middle, I think he can do that for you. Last one I'm going to add, I just thought of it. Would you rather have Tua or Brock Purdy?
I knew you were going to add. As soon as you said, I got another one. And I'm taking Tua.
Same. I agree with you.
Let's be clear, because I don't think San Francisco's on the docket today at all.
No, they have the bye. They have the 1 seed. We'll talk about them more next week.
We're not gonna talk about San Francisco or Brock Purdy much, and we can put this a pin for next week or whatever.
Yep.
Brock Purdy wouldn't make it on any other team with any other offense.
Ooh, that's bold. I don't know if I could say that. I think he's really progressed, and I think I was a very big Brock Purdy hater his first year because I watched him play at Iowa State. But for whatever reason, he is like, look, man, if you watch Tom Brady just play at Michigan, you'd be like, he's never going to be a great NFL quarterback. And I'm not comparing Brock Purdy to Tom Brady. I'm not doing that.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what I'm saying is, when I watch Brock Purdy play, I've watched him get better at reading his progressions and understanding where to go and making playmaker type plays. So I got to give him some credit. I don't want to say he wouldn't make it anywhere, but he may not be elite to the level he's at anywhere else.
Yeah, I'll agree with you, and I'll say this: I'm not a big Kyle Shanahan fan at all. I don't think Kyle Shanahan. I don't think Kyle Shanahan will go down as one of the greatest head coaches ever. But I
can't win a big game. That's the difference.
I do think that Kyle Shanahan has one of the best offensive minds in the game.
That's fact.
And like I said, I think if you put Brock Purdy in any other system in the NFL, he'd have been a third string quarterback by now.
All right, we got 4 games to preview.
Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, George Kittle. Come on. Let's move on.
We got 4 games to preview, and we only have 20 minutes left. So we're going to get through them, and we're going to knock them out. The good news is 2 of the games I don't think need a lot of preview, if I'm being honest. Brett's Green Bay Packers today travel to Dallas to take on, here we go, and Dak Prescott. I don't know if you're following why I keep saying here we go. The guy says it before every goddamn snap, and it's the most annoying thing. So it's like stuck in my head. But Green Bay's traveling to Dallas, and I've heard a lot of narratives. They're like, well, Dallas just chokes in the playoffs. Not versus Green Bay, they won't. That defense will carry them. That defense will dominate, and Dak Prescott will look great. That team plays very good at home. I have no doubt in my mind that the Dallas Cowboys, and I don't mean just beat, not just beat. I think they beat the brakes off of the Green Bay Packers today. I don't think that game's close. CeeDee Lamb does great against cover 1. That's primarily what Green Bay runs. Also, Jair Alexander can't follow CeeDee Lamb around because CeeDee Lamb is primarily out of the slot, so it's a lot more difficult to follow him around. I think there's a huge difference in this football game. And if you think you're going to see Jair Alexander sticking CeeDee Lamb all game, you're just not. I think, you say Cowboys by 14. I'm telling you right now, bet the mortgage on the Cowboys. They're going to dominate this football game. It will not be close. I think it's Cowboys by 25. I don't think the game's close.
I don't know, man. Jordan
Love.
Arguably, Jordan Love is having an MVP season.
Whoa. Slow down.
I said that to be an asshole. I'm sorry.
Okay. The guy lost to Tommy DeVito. All right. Like, let's not pretend that there's no way.
I know. I was being a jerk. If Brett was here, he would understand. He would get upset, but he would understand.
No AJ Dillon today. Jair Alexander had an injury at practice. He's questionable. Christian Watson's questionable. He's basically played half the games this year. I don't think there's a snowball's chance in hell the Cowboys lose this football game. And if they do, I might celebrate it like a Super Bowl.
Agreed. I agree with everything you said. As far as their offense goes, they're in the top 5. Their defense is top 5, top 6. There's no reason why the Cowboys shouldn't obliterate the Packers today. But if for whatever reason, I will tithe 90% and live off of 10%. If God answers that prayer today, that the Cowboys lose, just every single time they lose,
Yeah, you get a nice, good feeling inside.
Yes, a great feeling. a great.
And I agree with you. It's not going to happen though. And Danny says Cowboys by 14. I think it's way worse. I don't bet very often anymore. I'm betting heavy on this game. This is going to be, yeah. I mean, you can run the ball heavy with Jones. There's no Dillon. And that Cowboys defense, Dan Quinn's going to be very prepared for Jordan Love. And the Love boat will be sinking today. I don't think the game will be close. You can root for the Packers. I would be rooting for the Packers. Even if I lose money, it'd be worth it.
Yes. Let me ask you this real quick before we move on from this one.
Yeah.
If the Cowboys lose,
McCarthy's fired. That's what you're about to ask.
You think that quick?
100%. If they lose this game, McCarthy's fired. Done. He's gone. They're going to try to keep Dan Quinn in house. They won't. Dan Quinn's going to Seattle. But McCarthy's fired. They lose this football game.
Back to Dan Quinn will go back to Seattle?
I think so. I think he's going to be their head coach.
I think it would be a great pickup for Seattle. Bring back the Legion of Boom.
Dan Quinn was great there.
Yeah. I agree.
I kind of want to skip over the Sunday night game for a second. We'll get back to it, I promise. Okay. But we have another kind of like walkthrough game that we kind of got to get through. The only thing I want to talk about with this Pittsburgh Buffalo game, you don't think there's a chance that Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer goes into Buffalo and wins that football game, right?
No.
Okay, just checking. I just want to bash the Buffalo Bills organization for a second. They offered people $20 an hour and food to go shovel snow in front of their stadium in a blizzard.
Supposedly a bunch of franchises have
$20 an hour.
Yeah,
are you out of your friggin' mind? Did you see the view there? Yo, listen, I'm not kidding with you, right? You couldn't round up bums for $20 an hour to go shovel that stadium in that blizzard. Not to mention driving there, might die trying to get to Orchard Park to shovel that snow. It's not like it's in like the community. Like it's not like there's like a bunch of houses around there. Yeah. Complimentary food is just a hot dog. That's a joke. She might be kidding, but
no. I mean, whether she is or isn't, I mean, a hot dog and a handshake to go shovel that. Listen, for those who don't know, I own a landscaping company. I'm here in Kansas City, Missouri. All right, I don't have a plow on my vehicle. We get out and we use commercial grade shovels and we salt. $50 a driveway for me to shovel the driveway and the walkway. $75 for me to shovel and drop salt down. The reality is, and it was just like you said, Gene, billionaires didn't want to spend $20,000 to $25,000 to have a commercial size company come in there and get the stadium ready for their fans who paid their hard-earned money to watch that football game. And it's disgusting.
So floored. $20 an hour. Shovel provided. That was my favorite line. No shit. You think they're just going to show up with shovels? Shovel provided. You don't have to bring a shovel.
Yeah.
Like, that's the turn on.
Yeah. In Buffalo, look, let's say it takes you 3 hours. You come out and you help shovel for 3 hours. That'll get you 3 beers in the stadium.
$60. Yo, if they said $20 an hour and 2 tickets to a game next year, like that would be, I would get it, right? If you're a fan, like I'm gonna help the team out, I'm gonna make quick $60. I'm gonna get 2 tickets to a regular season game next year. Like they put them all in like a lottery, and they're like everybody showed up gets 2 tickets to a game next year. I could understand that, right? If you wanted to save money and just use resources, that would be fine. But $20 an hour and a hot dog, are you out of your friggin' mind?
Yeah.
I would never. I would drive down there if I could just to laugh at the people.
Yeah.
Are you here to shovel? No, not at all.
Yeah. You coming to help us, brother? No. Somebody said the same thing about the Chiefs. And somebody was like, oh, free tickets to a game. That's insane. At -7 degrees outside. For the Chiefs, I want tickets for life. I want tickets in the nosebleed for life. Yeah. You asshole. Like $1 billion owners sitting there, just like they built their big stadiums, and they want the citizens of the county that they're going to build the stadium in to help fork the bill over to build this new stadium. Then they want to come out and say, we'll give you $20 an hour, free food, and a nosebleed ticket to one game to come help. No,
They didn't do that. That's an addition. I added that.
Yeah, no, out of here.
That was an addition.
Yeah. I mean, the only way you would catch me out there is if somebody said, I'll give you tickets for life. Oh, okay, that's fine. I'll do my due diligence as a fan to come help you. But
as far as the game goes, I think the game will be a blowout. I think as long as Josh Allen doesn't turn the football over 20 times, this game won't be close. It's the biggest spread for a reason. And when you're missing your best defensive weapon in TJ Watt, I have no doubt Mike Tom will have that group ready. I don't think there's that snowball's chance in hell that they're winning.
No. But what if they do, Gene?
Oh my God, that would be like pandemonium.
What I mean, imagine like all the Pittsburgh Steeler fans that called for Mike Tomlin to be fired, which is insane.
Well, those guys are idiots.
You go to a franchise like, I mean, even Kansas City, Mike Tomlin has been the head coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers and never had a below 500 season. Never. And for fans to sit here and go, oh, Tomlin should be on the chopping block. Yeah. What if Tomlin wins? Just as a way to say,
it's not going to happen, but yeah, I get it.
It's nice to think about.
All right, we got a preview.
Little kid from Angels in the Outfield say, hey, it could happen.
Sunday night, the game of wild card weekend. Matthew Stafford returns to Ford Field. Now, I want to read this to you. I read it on Thursday, and I think it's hilarious. It's went down a little bit now. But the tickets last night were as low as $14 in Kansas City. You can get in the stadium last night for $14 at game time. The tickets at AT&T are $51. The lowest ticket to get in, $51. In Buffalo, it's $83. In Tampa, it's $85. Lowest ticket in the house. What do you think it is in Detroit? Lowest ticket in the house.
I'll go 75.
$336. $336. Bro, this is like, I'm not kidding with you when I say this. This is Detroit Super Bowl. They get to play their old quarterback that won a Super Bowl with another team in their first playoff game in Ford Field. Like, dude, this is their Super Bowl. Bro, Dan Campbell doesn't have that team ready, bro. That fan base is going to go a little nuts because this is everything. Guys, I picked the Rams to win this football game. I'm changing my pick. I don't know if it's the emotions that got the best of me. I don't know what it is. But, like, there's no way Detroit loses this football game. Like, it would be like the biggest slap in the face to an organization that's waited so long to be at this moment. I can't do it. Eminem was pleading with Stafford. I've seen that video. It's incredible.
I love that video. That video was hilarious. What if this game ends on a controversial call?
Oh,
Detroit.
Bro, it better not go against Detroit. They're not getting out of the stadium.
That's what I'm saying.
Bro, you think Philly fans are bad? You think Baltimore fans, New England fans, Kansas City fans? I'm telling you right now, Detroit, remember the Malice in the Palace?
Yeah.
I'm telling you, bro. If there's a controversial call, they're not getting out of the stadium. They're not getting out of the stadium.
Especially if it's a call that closes the game out.
Oh. I changed my pick. I'm going with the Detroit Lions. I think the Lions win the football game.
I like Detroit in this game too. Not just because it's my feel good pick, because I like Dan Campbell and everything they've done. I think they've got the team. I think they've got the tools to beat Los Angeles.
He's biting kneecaps, bro.
Biting kneecaps. That big ass dude.
Bro, I remember that press conference like it was yesterday.
I know.
I'm like, this guy's out of his mind, but I'd run through a wall for him.
Yeah.
Man. I'm looking forward to this football game. And it's one of those things that it's just a game. And like they say Sam Laporta is questionable. Like there's apparently a possibility that he'd play. He was a full participant in practice. Have they ruled him out yet? Like Sam Laporta, I thought tore his ACL. I thought he was done. Gardner Johnson's back. I don't know, man. I think Detroit turns over the Rams multiple times, and I think they win this football game. I'm going with the Lions.
I do too. I think it's a defensive. I think it's a defensive battle. Even though both of these teams have really bad defenses, I still think it's a defensive battle.
Yeah, I'm going Lions. I changed my pick. It took me a little bit, but I changed it. I'm going Lions. The Rams are trying to be upset.
We got one more game to talk about, don't we?
We do.
Are you excited about this one?
I'm not.
Okay. You
I
really
saved
that excited?
AJ Brown's not playing. The Eagles have lost 5 of 6 games. I'm in arguments with people that are outside the city of Philadelphia all the time. And we're always right? I'm not just not saying we're always right about like wins and losses, but when we talk about the internal functions that happened inside the Eagles locker room, we're right. We're right. Tomorrow night, the Eagles will travel to Tampa Bay to take on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, team that blitzes the 3rd most in all football. The only thing that there's a couple things that give me reason for hope. And I'll start with this. It's probably going to be a torrential downpour. And I think the Eagles will be able to run the football better than Tampa Bay. We'll start there. I think that Jalen Hurts' fingers not right. He's barely thrown this week. There's no AJ Brown. If I'm Todd Bowles, I'm putting every person in the world on that line of scrimmage and make Jalen beat me over the top while taking a hit. And by the way, it's very easy to play defense against Philadelphia Eagles right now. Very easy. I'm going to give you the game plan, Todd. And I know you know better than me. You're a defensive guy. You blitz him from the right. You make Jalen roll left. And the left end plays contain. Splits him from the right. Make him roll left. Left end plays contain. That's it. I think the Eagles can run the football. And I think that the sense around the Philadelphia Eagles is they're ready. They're fired up for this playoff game. And they've been ready for this playoff game for a while. And they're on a different, mentality. Let's talk about if they win. Let's talk about if they lose. Tampa Bay, great story. You got Baker Mayfield, led that team to the playoffs, but he's questionable for the game. He's hurting, right? He's been in pain. He's going to play. He's a warrior. Who do you like in this football game? And then we'll talk about what ifs.
Well, I'm not betting against the Philadelphia Eagles.
Okay.
They've got a great rushing game. Which I think, again, if accentuate the positives, hide the negatives. If they're if they run the ball and they stick to running the ball and play action, I don't think this game should be difficult for them at all.
You've not watched the Eagles recently. They played the Arizona Cardinals in a game at home in a game that should not be difficult, and they lost. They played the New York Giants, a team that's actively trying to lose on the road, and lost.
I think with these blinders on, because mind you, I'm not a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Yeah,
I'm a Jalen Hurts fan. And that's about as far. Jalen Hurts and Brandon Graham and Jason Kelsey, obviously. I can't stand the coach, can't stand the general manager. But if you look at hopefully what they've done is they said, hey, we made mistakes, and here's what we're going to do going forward. It's playoff time. No more time to let this happen. Let's clean this up. Playoffs. Let's go into Tampa Bay. We don't have to worry about the elements. What we have to worry about is running the ball, and executing, and coming up to the line of scrimmage like we are known to do. That's what I'm hoping.
Chase, I'm ready for the.
I don't want to see that because I don't want to see the Tampa Bay Buccaneers win.
Well, let me ask you a question real quick. As an Eagles fan that I am, would you think it would be more painful for me to watch them win versus Tampa Bay and then get the shit kicked out of them by Dallas or San Francisco, or have them lose versus Tampa Bay head into the offseason? No, I'm serious. Bro, this is what I think about, right? If they're not going to be good enough to beat Tampa Bay, Good enough to beat Dallas or San Fran. I don't want them to beat Tampa Bay because this offseason has to be one of two things. One, you're either getting rid of Nick Sirianni and you're replacing him with a guy like Mike Rabel or Brian Flores or Ben Johnson or one of those guys that will be available that will fix the culture in the building. The culture is bad. Or you're firing both coordinators, Brian Johnson and Sean Desai / Matt Patricia, and you're going out there and saying, here, Wink Martindale, what do you want? I'm going to give you a blank check. Just please be our defensive coordinator. And then you go out and get Frank Wright, and both those guys don't want to be head coaches anymore, and you have your coordinator set, and then you let Nick Sirianni be his weirdo self talking smack to fans. By the way, Philadelphia Eagles are like 2-5 since he did that in Kansas City. I can't. I'm friggin' frustrated. And when I look at this team and the talent, right? I was talking on Birds Deep with Godfrey and Cool, and we were talking for a minute about the talent on the team. And Godfrey had the nerve to say that he would rather that's a personnel thing. There's players that are the problem. To say he would take Minnesota's defense over Philadelphia's personnel-wise, not scheme, personnel-wise. I'm like, are you out of your freaking mind? You have a defensive player of the year candidate in Hassan Reddick last year. Defensive rookie of the year, I think he should be a candidate, not the guy that wins, and Jalen Carter. An all-pro safety, cornerback in Darius Slay, an all-pro safety in Kevin Byard, an $18 million a year cornerback in James Bradbury, Shaq Leonard, who was an all-pro 3 years ago, Brandon Graham, who's a Hall of Famer, Fletcher Cox, who's possibly a Hall of Famer, a first-rounder in Nolan Smith, a first-rounder in Jordan Davis. A defensive coordinator would literally cream for that, the guts, those bones.
Yeah.
Don't you dare tell me that it's a personnel issue.
No.
In Philadelphia, it's a coaching issue, and that's why I have no faith in them winning Monday. None. I think they're the better football team, and I think Baker's the wrong quarterback to dice up our defense. So I think there's a good possibility they win that football game. I do. But if they do win that game, what odds do you give them to go into San Francisco and beat them on a short week in their backyard? 5%? I don't want to win a game versus Tampa Bay and then get the shit kicked out of us in San Francisco. It's embarrassing. Just let me lose a 3-point game, let the team go off into the sunset, and we replace a bunch of people. Ugh. I'm going to pick the Eagles. I think they're going to win, but I would be fine if they lost.
I agree with everything. I mean, if I was a Chiefs fan, I would be in the same boat. I love the person. I love the players on the Eagles team. Everybody on the defense that you named, Jason Kelsey, Jalen Hurts. I think Jalen Hurts is a special player. I think if you give him the opportunity, he will find ways to win games, just like Patrick Mahomes does. He's just, there's a lot of great talent on that team. As far as the coaching goes, I think it's more about moral victories for Nick Sirianni and the boys than it is trying to make it happen on the field.
Well, thank you guys so much for tuning in to another edition of Sunday Morning Drive. We have to wrap up. We will be back next week. We only have 1 hour time. So I appreciate it. The hour felt like it flew. Appreciate everybody in the chat. I appreciate Northeast Streaming Sports. And I'm NFL Genius Gene Walzak. That's Chase MCR Media. And we are signing out.